Welcome back to our channel, where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today, we bring you some news. King Charles is speechless over Princess Anne's bold move against his last wish for Camilla. A sudden rush to the hospital in the gray morning of March 28th threw open the oak doors that normally hide the House of Windsor's innermost fears. The hospital was the location of the abrupt rush. King Charles III, at 76 years old, has been secretly fighting cancer since the winter of 2024. During the most recent round of immunotherapy, he experienced a fall, which his advisors referred to as temporary side effects. The specialists at the London clinic had implored the king to calm down the unrelenting pace of engagements that he considers to be a holy obligation. Nonetheless, he had instead boarded aircraft, shook hands, and visited Northern Ireland with Queen Camilla. He ultimately gave in when the physicians insisted on overnight observation, and then he canceled a week's worth of appearances, which was an unusual retreat for a ruler whose motto is, "Never pass an empty day." On the 25th of April, which is Anzac Day, Charles's vulnerability became very difficult to conceal. This holiday is the day when he regularly leads Britain's homage to the war dead of Australia and New Zealand. While reciting Binion's For the Fallen, the equerry of the king often places a wreath at the cenotaph where the monument is located. At this year's meeting, two stand-ins took up the task. Princess Anne, who was often referred to as the Spare's Spare, traveled to Gallipoli and walked up its dusty slopes to pay her respects to the graves of those who had died there. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, read the king's message at the break of dawn in London. A crown that was under pressure and a succession plan that was being tried in real time were both symbols that their serenity was unable to conceal. Charles called his closest family together for what one witness refers to as the Council of Last Wishes when he was in the painful process of recuperating from his illness. Queen Camilla, Princess Anne, Prince William, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and two senior advisors were seated at a table made of mahogany at Clarence House, surrounded by the aforementioned individuals. The question at hand is how to ensure Camilla's comfort in the event that therapy is unsuccessful, as well as how far the monarchy needs to go to include her Parker Bowles dynasty into its fabric. Both of the propositions were provocative. The first thing that the king did was request that Royal Lodge, a Georgian palace located in Windsor Great Park with 30 rooms, be made into Camilla's personal residence. A 75-year lease that Prince Andrew signed in 2003 after paying £7.5 million, money that opponents believe came from pals who wanted favors, is the impediment that stands in the way. The powder blue drawing rooms of Royal Lodge were formerly used to hold bridge parties for the Queen Mother, and paintings in the saloon portray the youthful Elizabeth II riding ponies over Berkshire lawns. Royal Lodge is not a residence. Andrew, humiliated and banished from public life, entrusts the land as his last remaining stronghold. As a means of forcing his brother out of the house, Charles has already reduced his brother's stipend and security. This new demand has reignited a siege that has never truly been lifted. Second, Charles proposed a suggestion that was even more controversial. He proposed that Camilla's children, Tom Parker Bowles, who is a culinary critic, and Laura Lopes, who is an art curator, be provided with courtesy titles. No British king has ever elevated stepchildren to such a status. To proceed, a recommendation from the Prime Minister and maybe legislation would be required. From a political perspective, the timing is problematic. Amid the surge in food bank usage, the establishment of a new aristocracy could seem absurd. Even Andrew's defenders feared that the optics may make any progress made by Andrew's expulsion seem insignificant. Thirdly, the king desired that Camilla be referred to as Queen, and he adamantly rejected the title of consort. Unofficially, the palace had begun to embrace this risk, but Charles aimed to firmly establish it in the Church of England's liturgy. This was another departure from the pledge that Elizabeth II made in her address for the Platinum Jubilee in 2022. Princess Anne, who is known for her calm demeanor, detonated the explosives. The Princess Royal allegedly waited for the authorities to leave their presence before directing her gaze toward her brother with a glare akin to wilting flowers. "Mummy would never have allowed this," she said, referring to their mother in the present tense. She accused Charles of gambling with Elizabeth II's legacy to satisfy his own selfish devotion. She brought to his attention the fact that when the late queen accepted Camilla as queen consort, out of regard for the feelings of the general people, she also circumscribed the position itself. Anne yelled, "Moving the goalposts now runs the risk of destroying the trust that she spent so much time building." Prince William contributed a weight that was more subdued, yet significant. This warning came from the heir, who said that popular tolerance for royal privilege is quite low. Camilla's family would be elevated, while Prince Harry's children waited years for their styles, which would attract accusations of hypocrisy from those who were involved. There is also the possibility that William would use Royal Lodge as a safe haven in Windsor for Catherine and their expanding family after he has inherited the throne. He made a veiled reference to the fact that removing it off the direct connection for Camilla's sake would defy everyday lessons of longevity. Charles was taken aback. As soon as the meeting was over, he went into his study and remained there for an hour while Camilla walked down the hallway. A few days later, when he was alone with the Queen and his private secretary, he reiterated the concept that his wife must never feel like a guest in residences that she had helped rebuild. However, he conceded that evicting Andrew would require a legal battle. An agreement was reached in which Camilla would be granted life tenancy at Royal Lodge, but only in the event that Andrew passed away or voluntarily left the property. Despite this, the cracks became wider. Courtiers who were loyal to Camilla whispered that Anne skated close to insolence, while Anne's friends said that duty sometimes requires ruthless honesty. When it was discovered by the Times that Camilla's sister, interior designer Annabel Elliot, had secretly lost her Duchy of Cornwall consultancy when William acquired the estate, the situation reached a point where it was dangerously close to extinction. As a result of the decision that was made over the summer of 2017, the previously substantial expenditure on refurbishing was cut in half. Camilla was acutely aware of the severity of the incision, and Anne praised it as evidence that William planned to trim fat. Responses from those beyond the royal gates were divided. Anne's approval rating reached a 10-year high of 72% in a survey conducted by YouGov at the beginning of April, while Camilla's number dropped to 47%. Several callers praised Anne's common-sense backbone, while others accused her of being abusive to a cancer sufferer. The question that was posed by the tabloids was why Buckingham Palace had discreetly removed the title of consort from Camilla just after 9 months had passed after the coronation. At the heart of Anne's rage is the broken promise that she failed to keep. Elizabeth II expressed her desire in a letter that she sent in February 2022. "It is my sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort." The statement bridged the divide between the reluctance of the public and tradition. Palace stationery omitted the qualification, causing Anne to experience mission creep. If words solemnly stated by the late Queen can be amended, then what constitutional red line is still in place? The historians of the royal family perceive echoes of previous crises. King George IV attempted to prevent his estranged wife, Caroline, from attending the coronation in the year 1820, which resulted in rioting. Edward VIII's fixation on marrying Wallis Simpson in 1936 came dangerously close to bringing down the whole monarchy. According to Professor Sarah Richardson, the monarchy survives by providing the appearance of being fair. In situations when the rules seem to be bent for personal choice, compassion is lost. The devotion of Camilla makes judgment more difficult. Friends describe a lady who gets up at 4 in the morning to be next to Charles during his radiation sessions, who edits his speeches every night, and who has borne decades of vilification merely to be by his side. Catherine Mayer, a well-known biographer, has said, "She is his anchor." In light of the fact that he is facing his own death, the king takes prompt action. The beginning of his reign occurs at an age when his mother had already celebrated her silver jubilee. Princess Anne's authority is not based on her status, but rather on her record. In 2017, she attended 214 engagements, which is more than any other royal with the exception of William. She is known for recycling outerwear, driving herself, and carrying her lunch in a Tupperware container. In other words, her outburst had a profound impact. There are many who feel that she arranged it such that it occurred while Charles was recuperating, while others are concerned that her bluntness may have caused a wider rift. The immediate victim is the cohesiveness of the family. Andrew, sensing a respite, ordered repairs to the tune of £2 million for the roof of Royal Lodge. Because they were embarrassed by the stories, Camilla's children disappeared from public view, and Tom made a decision to withdraw a BBC cooking feature. William is loving to his father while remaining respectfully detached from Camilla's agenda. He performs the duties of filial piety while also preparing for the future. A combination of political calculations and medical charts will determine what happens next. Downing Street must give its approval for any peerage that Tom or Laura receives, but this is unlikely due to the upcoming election. Although Andrew's lease is unbreakable, the process of evicting him would be a humiliating and unroyal sight. Insiders are betting on a stalemate. Camilla will wait for Anne's anger to subside. Charles will hope that Anne's wrath dwindles, and the status quo, which is strained but yet functional, will continue. An earlier controversy is being concealed by Prince Andrew's tenants. Prince Andrew disappeared from public life immediately after Virginia Giuffre's legal claim was settled for an estimated £12 million, which analysts believe Charles was instrumental in raising. The percentage of people who find him appealing is just 6%. The king would be subject to allegations of cruelty if he were to force such a pariah brother out of his only sanctuary. Nevertheless, permitting Andrew to dictate conditions would be a humiliating demonstration for the king. The unresolved issue is a Gordian knot that very few people think Charles can untangle. Laura Lopes, who is 47 years old, co-manages a gallery in Mayfair that showcases modern ceramics, and Tom Parker Bowles, who is 49 years old, criticizes gastropubs by making self-deprecating comments about waistlines. Both of these individuals have led lives that are quite ordinary. Friends say they both fear becoming court ornaments. Regardless of whether or not they have royal blood, they are now pawns on a board that their stepfather adjusts on a regular basis. Any argument may be sharpened by finances. According to royal reports, Charles and Camilla spent £17.9 million renovating private rooms, while simultaneously declaring their intention to charge for tours of Clarence House. Members of Parliament are muttering about increasing the scrutiny of audits on the sovereign gift of £86.3 million. In the event that Charles violates established norms for the benefit of his family, calls for change may evolve into more stringent demands. Elizabeth II took great delight in her 36 Georgian-bred thoroughbred horses. These horses were the source of her admiration. 8 weeks after her death, she sold 14 of her horses, including Just Fine, the Wolferton Stakes winner. They brought in a total of £1.1 million, but they caused traditionalists to become furious. Apoplectic was a word that was used to describe Anne, an Olympic equestrian. As soon as Camilla took over management of the royal stables, the pain became much more excruciating. The publicity in the media has become contagious. The Sun published an article titled Palace Power Play, which framed the events as if they were from Game of Thrones. The Guardian investigated constitutional issues, such as whether or not the sovereign may confer titles without the support of the cabinet. On social media, the hashtags #Team Anne and #Stand with Camilla were trending in alternating fashion, revealing a society that is split between respect for tradition and compassion for a love story that occurred in later life. Commentators from Australia and New Zealand expressed concern in public. If the king is unable to attend Anzac festivities due to his illness, would he be able to continue serving as head of state? There is a physiological reality that is always there underlying every speech. According to specialists who were interviewed by The Lancet, Charles's treatment plan, which consists of experimental immunotherapy and low-dose chemotherapy, carries a 30% risk of extreme exhaustion and heart stress. However, the palace does not provide any data on this program. His assistants have removed the daily rest blocks from his journal. It's possible that time, the most valuable commodity for the monarchy, is shorter than what the convention acknowledges. The conciliatory strategy that has been proposed by advisors is to resurrect the defunct rank of Lord Protectress, which Queen Adelaide had held since 1839, to bestow ceremonial responsibilities onto Camilla without modifying her titles. Anne has requested the legal opinion from the Cabinet Office, and Camilla has declined to comment. In the meanwhile, inflation is hovering at 5.2%. Waiting lists for the National Health Service, NHS, have surpassed 8 million, and the Republican Party is becoming more vocal with each protest over the rising cost of living. It is a common warning from historians that crises seldom depend on a single flare. Rather, they build up like tectonic tension. When Sir Anthony Selden thinks back to the 1990s, he remembers the time when Windsor Castle burnt down and the marriage of the Waleses collapsed, which compelled Elizabeth II to declare 1992 her annus horribilis. He argues this moment is less spectacular, but more dangerous. He goes on to explain that the public mood is fragile, the economy is struggling, and the family seems to be in a state of discord. Treasury committees are demanding rigorous audits of royal expenditures at this time. Professor Vernon Bogdanor asserts that a split family encourages Parliament to scrutinize the inner workings. In the past, the institution was shielded from criticism by a revered monarch. Even the slightest indication that Charles manipulates property or titles for personal reasons might hasten the implementation of measures that the Crown seldom even considers. Staff members within the royal walls adhere to their schedule. The Chelsea Flower Show, a state visit to Kenya, and a Westminster ceremony commemorating the first anniversary of the King's coronation are all events that are scheduled to take place during the month of May. Anne uses a red pen to keep track of each event, discarding anything that goes on for more than 2 hours. A courtier describes Camilla as having a safe ground where she is untouchable, and she has increased her engagements that focus on literacy charity. Camilla seems to be in a calm and collected state. William has to strike a compromise between his loyalty to his family and his responsibility to the institution. While he is at Adelaide Cottage in the evenings, he imagines other situations, such as a brief regency, the Commons opposing peerages, and Andrew refusing inspections by the Crown Estate. Because he is attempting to fulfill the roles of counselor, son, and future king all at the same time, an assistant comments, he sleeps very little. Even at the grassroots level, attitudes continue to be nuanced. Margaret Balmer, a retired educator standing in line at Windsor Chapel, concurs with Anne, stating, "The monarchy is not a random sweet shop." An individual named Imran Rahman, a student from Bristol, expresses his sympathy for Charles by saying, "Let the old man look after his wife. He spent decades forbidden to." The results of the polls indicate that there is a generational divide. 62% of people over the age of 65 support Anne, while 55% of those between the ages of 18 and 34 support Charles and Camilla. The continuity of the situation is more important to diplomats than the polls. Embassies of the United Kingdom have received a briefing that advises them to stress institutional resilience in the event that international press investigates internal problems. As an indication of how seriously Whitehall takes the family feud's global optics, talking points include the secure line of succession, constitutional procedures that have not altered, and royal responsibilities that have not been stopped. The primary dilemma, however, which is how far private affection may bend public responsibility, will continue to keep the reign in doubt. Charles inherited a recently refined monarchy after Elizabeth's decades of self-control. It is a very human desire for him to prioritize love, but the system is designed to outlive individual cravings. Anne is aware of this fact without conscious thought. By cautioning her brother, she may have saved the exact thing that he is trying to save. For now, the king has reduced the number of events he attends, and he is now waving to well-wishers from the window of a Bentley while smiling behind smoked glass. Although Camilla hovers protectively behind Anne steps forward in sensible shoes with a clipboard ready. Cameras click and headlines soften, but courtiers concede that the ceasefire is tenuous. "We've had the row," one of the people says. "Our team has not yet resolved the issue." Prince Andrew pokes fun at the situation. Camilla's waiting. William is analyzing financial figures. As always, the crown is dependent on the fragility of human beings. Lamplight is burning at his desk in the king's sitting room at Clarence House, where he is now located. Any person who walks by will see Charles crouched over his mail, his pen pausing as he considers each signature in light of the balances of history. The writing desk displays an image of the late Queen, its glass reflecting the candle's light. Therein is the predicament that the king must face, to show respect to the mother whose rule exemplified consistency, while at the same time providing protection to the wife who represents his twilight. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.